All right, so buckle up, everyone, because today we are diving deep into a military operation.
Oh, yeah.
That's so audacious.
It really is.
It could be ripped
Yeah.
straight from the pages of like a Tom Clancy novel.
Absolutely.
We're talking about Operation Days of Repentance, Israel's daring air campaign against Iran.
Daring is a good word for it.
You might be thinking,
Yeah.
how in the world did Israel pull off a mission
Right.
with almost 80 aircraft hitting targets
Yeah.
deep inside Iran without losing a single pilot?
Yeah. Remarkable.
To answer that question,
Yeah.
let's break down the details of this operation
Absolutely.
and all the crazy tech that they use.
Yeah, the technology is fascinating.
So first of all,
Yeah.
the sheer meticulous planning that went into this.
Oh, absolutely.
This was a carefully choreographed
Yeah.
three-phase attack
A three-phase attack designed to,
designed to cripple
Iran-
Iran's ability to react.
yes, key aspects of their military capabilities, really.
Okay, so let's break down these phases one by one.
Okay. Sounds good.
First up,
Yeah.
how did Israel manage to penetrate Iranian airspace
Right.
in the first place?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Were they facing like some pretty sophisticated air defenses?
Oh, they absolutely were.
Like what?
Iran has some advanced systems, like the Russian-made S-300,
Right.
and then their domestically developed Bavara 373,
Okay.
which is essentially their answer to the S-300,
Okay.
designed to sort of rival its capabilities.
Okay.
But Israel knew they couldn't just waltz in.
Right.
The first phase
Yeah.
was all about neutralizing those defenses,
Okay.
targeting those very systems,
Okay.
along with radar installations
Right.
and command centers.
Oh, so they went after...
They blinded Iran's ability to see and react.
Oh, wow. So they were essentially playing blind man's bluff
Yeah, you could say that.
with Iran's entire air defense system.
Their entire integrated air defense network, really.
That must have taken some incredible planning.
It did, absolutely.
Coordination
Incredible coordination.
to pull that off.
And they used a combination of tactics.
Okay, what kind of tactics are we talking about?
Well, electronic warfare, for one,
Wow.
to jam communications and disrupt radar,
Oh, okay.
and then precision strikes to physically take out those key targets.
I see.
Think of it like cutting the phone lines
Okay.
and knocking out the security cameras
Right.
before you even step foot in the house.
Okay. I like that analogy.
Yeah, it paints a picture.
So, with Iran's defenses effectively neutralized, what happened next?
Well, phase 2 was all about
Yeah.
targeting Iran's retaliatory power,
Okay.
their ballistic missiles.
Okay.
Specifically, the Shahab-3 and Sijel missiles.
Right. These aren't like your average
Yeah,
fireworks.
no.
These are serious.
These are missiles with ranges
Yeah.
exceeding 1,000 kilometers,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And capable of carrying,
Substantial payloads.
right, like posing a real threat to Israel and the region.
Yeah. I was reading about these missiles,
Yeah.
and my jaw dropped.
Yeah.
The sheer audacity of taking them out.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
How did they even pull that off?
So Israel deployed its F-15I Ram fighters,
The Ram.
yeah, which are essentially heavily modified F-15s,
Okay.
turning them into flying arsenals.
Oh, wow.
Ram, by the way, means thunder in Hebrew,
Oh, okay.
which seems fitting,
Yeah.
given the firepower we're talking about.
Right.
These aircraft,
Yeah.
loaded with bunker-busting munitions,
Okay.
were able to hit those hardened missile facilities
Oh, wow.
with incredible accuracy.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So with Iran's eyes and ears knocked out
Right.
and their big guns silenced,
Yeah.
what was the focus of the third and final phase?
So phase 3 was about long-term disruption,
Okay.
hitting Iran's ability to rearm and rebuild.
Okay.
They targeted manufacturing facilities that produce missile components,
Okay.
research and development sites. I see.
Even aerospace industries.
So it was like a surgical strike,
It was surgical strike,
aimed at setting back.
setting back their military-industrial complex.
Oh, so not just neutralizing the immediate threat,
Right.
but also buying themselves some breathing room for the future.
Buying some time, yes.
Smart move.
It was a strategic move.
And to carry out these strikes,
Yeah,
they brought out their top-of-the-line
they did.
stealth fighters, the F-35I Adirs, right?
You got it.
The Adirs.
Be mighty in Hebrew.
Okay, Mighty
Yeah.
showcases Israel's technological edge,
Oh, absolutely.
packed with Israeli avionics
Yeah.
and electronic warfare systems.
These stealth fighters could penetrate deep into Iranian airspace,
Wow.
practically invisible to enemy radar.
It must have been a nightmare for the Iranian defenses.
Yeah. Imagine trying to track those.
Talk about a ghost in the machine.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't just about stealth, was it?
No.
They also used some pretty impressive weaponry.
They did. Let's talk about the LoRa ballistic missiles. This is a game changer.
It is a game changer.
Right.
It's a surface-to-surface missile.
Yeah.
With a range of up to 400 kilometers.
Oh, wow.
And pinpoint accuracy.
That's insane.
Imagine you're an Iranian commander.
Yeah.
And you get intel that one of these things is heading your way.
Uh-oh.
You know it's coming.
Yeah.
But there's very little you can do to stop it.
Right.
That's the reality of facing a LoRa array.
It's got to be a feeling of utter helplessness.
It would be demoralizing.
And then there's the element of electronic warfare, right? Essentially hacking into their radio and radar systems, creating chaos and confusion.
Precisely. Yep. Electronic warfare played a critical role in disrupting Iran's command and control networks, further crippling their ability to coordinate a defense. This, combined with cyber attacks, targeting their computer systems, created a multi-layered attack that overwhelmed their defenses.
So, let me get this straight. Israel successfully executed this massive air operation, hitting a laundry list.
A whole range.
Of high-value targets.
High-value targets, yeah.
All while navigating hostile airspace. And facing advanced air defense systems like the Bavar 373.
It's pretty remarkable.
It's almost unbelievable.
It's a testament to their meticulous planning. Their technological superiority. And the sheer skill of their pilots.
Wow. But this also raises some serious questions about Iran's defensive capabilities, right?
It does.
Despite having relatively sophisticated systems, their response seemed...
underwhelming.
Yeah, underwhelming.
A bit flat-footed. Yeah.
They did manage to shoot down some drones.
They did have some successes.
And intercept a few missiles, I think.
Yeah.
But overall, it felt like they were caught flat-footed.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was?
Well, the element of surprise certainly played a role.
Okay.
The combination of stealth, electronic warfare, and cyber attacks likely overwhelmed their systems. It also points to potential weaknesses in their integrated air defense network.
Okay, so their radar coverage.
Maybe their radar coverage wasn't as comprehensive as they thought.
Okay.
Or maybe their command and control systems were more vulnerable than anticipated.
So even with all the fancy tech, it's all about...
It's about how you use it.
How well you can use it.
Exactly.
It's like having all the ingredients for a gourmet meal, but not knowing how to cook.
Perfect analogy. And this is something that Colonel Richard Kemp. A former British military commander and expert in this area. He's very well respected in the field. Highlighted in his analysis of the operation. He was incredibly impressed with the precision and effectiveness of the Israeli strikes.
Really?
Calling the operation extraordinary.
Colonel Kemp. He's known for being pretty blunt.
He doesn't mince words. And he also raised an interesting point.
What's that?
He suggested that Israel may have actually held back. Potentially due to political pressure from the United States.
Wait, are you saying that Israel might have been holding back?
It's a possibility.
During this whole operation?
It's something to consider.
That's wild.
Remember, Israel has to balance its own security needs with maintaining strong relations with the U.S. Which might not always agree with their more aggressive tactics.
Okay, so it's a delicate dance.
It's a very delicate dance.
A delicate dance with potentially explosive consequences.
High stakes.
This operation has certainly thrown a wrench.
It has.
Into the already complex geopolitical landscape.
It has deep.
Of the Middle East.
Absolutely.
And in the next part, we'll delve into those very consequences.
We will.
Exploring how Iran might respond. And what this means for the future of the region.
Stay tuned for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
It's going to be a wild ride.
It's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah. So welcome back to the deep dive.
All right, let's...
As we delve deeper into this aftermath of Operation Days of Repentance.
Wild repentance, right?
It's clear that this isn't just a story about military hardware and tactics. But a story about power, perception. And the precarious balance of alliances in the Middle East.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest questions looming over this whole situation is how will Iran respond? They can't just like shrug this off, can they?
They can't. They're facing immense pressure to retaliate, to save face at home, and maintain their image as a regional power.
Okay, so if I'm sitting in Tehran right now, what are my options? What are the potential moves on the geopolitical chessboard?
So A direct military strike against Israel is highly unlikely.
Okay, why is that?
Iran knows. Yeah. Such a move would be incredibly risky.
Okay.
Remember, we just discussed how effectively Israel neutralized a large chunk of their military.
Right.
Such an attack could easily spiral into a full-blown war.
Right.
One that Iran would likely lose.
It's not like they can just launch a few missiles and not face the consequences, right?
Exactly.
The full might of the Israeli military.
Yeah, the IDF is not to be trifled with.
Right, backed by some of the most advanced technology in the world.
Right, exactly.
Oh,
so a more likely scenario is that Iran will rely on its network of proxy groups to carry out attacks against Israeli interests.
So who are we talking about?
Think Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Okay.
Or Hamas in Gaza.
Right, so it's like playing whack-a-mole.
It is a bit like whack-a-mole.
Trying to hit these dispersed groups.
Right.
While the puppet master...
remains hidden.
Right, remains hidden.
Making it difficult for Israel to pinpoint the source of the attacks and retaliate effectively.
And this isn't just theoretical, right? We've already seen an increase in activity.
There's been a surge in activity in recent weeks.
You're right.
Like rocket attacks.
Okay.
Cross-border raids.
Right.
The list goes on.
And it's likely to continue.
It's likely to continue.
Right.
Perhaps even escalate.
So Israel's caught in a tough spot.
They are.
They need to respond to these attacks.
To deter future aggression.
Right. But they also can't overreact.
Right. They can't afford to overreact and risk inflaming the situation.
Right. So it's a tightrope walk.
It's a real tightrope walk.
And to make matters even more complicated, Israel also has to consider the potential reactions of its allies.
Right. That's a crucial point.
Particularly the United States, right?
Especially the United States.
They don't want to alienate their most powerful supporter, right?
Of course not.
But at the same time, they can't appear.
They can't appear weak or indecisive.
It's a real puzzle.
It's a real geopolitical puzzle.
Geopolitical puzzle, so we need to zoom out a bit.
Yes, let's broaden our perspective.
And look at the broader regional implications.
Operation Days of Repentance has sent shockwaves through the Middle East. Forcing countries to reevaluate their alliances.
Right.
And security strategy.
This wasn't just like a minor border skirmish.
This is a major operation.
Right.
That demonstrated Israel's willingness to use force against a regional power.
Against Iran.
And that has got everyone's attention.
Who's watching this the closest?
I think the Gulf states are watching this very closely.
The Gulf states, okay.
Countries like Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
And the United Arab Emirates.
Right, right.
They're more wary than ever of Iran's ambitions.
Okay.
And might be more inclined to cooperate with Israel.
To cooperate with Israel.
Even secretly. To counter Iranian influence.
Wow. So we could see a realignment of alliances.
It's possible.
In the region.
Yeah.
With some strange bedfellows emerging.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right. But this situation goes beyond just regional players.
It does.
Right. Global powers like the United States.
Of course.
Russia, China.
Right.
They're also watching this situation very closely.
They are key players on the world stage.
What are the implications for those global powerhouses?
So, for the United States, it's complicated.
Okay, how so?
They share Israel's concerns about Iran's nuclear ambitions and regional aggression.
Right.
But they're also trying to de-escalate tensions and revive the nuclear deal with Iran.
Right.
It's like trying to juggle two opposing goals.
Right. So the Biden administration might be quietly applauding
behind closed doors, perhaps,
Israel's boldness.
Right.
But they also have to publicly urge restraint.
Yeah, they have to play the diplomatic game.
And try to contain the fallout.
Right, exactly.
And then there's Russia.
Yeah, Russia's an interesting player here.
Yeah, strengthening ties with Iran.
They've been strengthening ties with Iran.
Right, both militarily and economically.
In recent years, yes.
So they see Iran as like a key player.
They see Iran as a key player in the region.
Okay.
And a way to push back against U.S. influence.
Push back against the U.S.
So they're watching this with a mixture of concern and opportunity.
Okay.
Wary of things spiraling out of control.
Right.
But also ready to capitalize on any missteps.
Okay.
To further their own agenda.
And what about China? Where do they stand on this?
China's in a similar position.
Okay.
But with a greater emphasis on economic interests.
Right.
They're heavily invested in Iran's energy sector.
Right, right.
And see the country as a crucial partner. in their Belt and Road Initiative.
Right.
Stability is definitely in their best interest.
Right.
But they also don't want to alienate Iran.
Okay.
Or jeopardize their investments.
So it's a delicate balancing act.
It's a delicate balancing act for all involved.
But beyond the international implications, we also need to remember the human element.
That's an important point.
Of this story.
The human cost.
Operation Days of Repentance has exposed the vulnerabilities of the Iranian regime.
Absolutely.
And that's got to have consequences for the people living under their rule.
It will have consequences.
I mean, yeah.
There's simmering discontent in Iran.
Right.
Fueled by economic hardship, political repression, and corruption.
We've seen those waves of protests.
We have.
In recent years.
People demanding change, demanding accountability.
His operation could be the spark.
It could be.
That ignites a much larger fire.
A much larger fire.
So the regime's walking a tightrope.
They are walking a tightrope.
They need to appear strong.
Yeah, to appease the hardliners.
Right, but cracking down too hard on the protests
could further inflame the situation.
Right.
And lead to even more dissent.
And then there's a wild card.
Yeah, the wild card.
Of the supreme leader's health.
Khamenei's health is a major factor.
If he were to die.
Right. Or become incapacitated.
It could trigger a power struggle within the regime.
Right.
Potentially leading to even greater instability.
So it sounds like a powder keg.
It does.
With multiple fuses.
Multiple fuses, yeah.
Any one of which could set it off.
That's a good way to put it.
We've got heightened tensions.
Yes.
Shifting alliances. Global power.
Global powers maneuvering for position.
The aftershocks of Operation Days of Repentance are far from over.
They are far from over.
And the million-dollar question is...
The million-dollar question.
What happens next?
What happens next?
That's the question we'll try to answer.
We will try to answer that.
In the final part of our deep dive.
In the final part.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All right. Welcome back to the deep dive.
It's good to be back.
We've spent the last two parts.
You have.
Really dissecting this whole Operation Days of Repentance.
Operation Days of Repentance.
It sent shockwaves through the Middle East.
It really has. And beyond.
And beyond, yeah.
I mean, we've uncovered Israel's tactical brilliance.
Absolutely. Their planning was meticulous.
Their cutting-edge technology.
The technology is mind-blowing.
And the ripple effects this audacious move has created.
It's shaking things up.
But... As with any complex event,
right,
the real intrigue lies in what happens next.
The future is uncertain.
So no pressure then.
A lot of pressure, actually.
But seriously, how do we even begin to untangle this geopolitical web?
Well, I think it helps to examine a few potential scenarios.
Okay.
Not as predictions.
Not as predictions.
But as thought exercises.
Okay, as thought exercises.
What are the possibilities and how might they play out?
Okay, so let's play what if.
Let's play what if.
Scenario 1. Iran decides on direct retaliation against Israel.
Okay, direct retaliation.
What does that look like?
That's the high-stakes poker game.
Okay.
Iran's conventional forces might not match Israel's, but they do have a few cards to play.
Okay.
Particularly their ballistic missile arsenal.
Right, right.
Even after Operation Days of Repentance.
Okay.
Those Shahab 3s and Sejils could still inflict significant damage.
A barrage of those hitting Israeli cities?
Right.
I mean...
Devastating.
It would be devastating.
But the consequences for Iran would be even more severe.
More severe.
Israel has a robust missile defense system.
They do.
And wouldn't hesitate to unleash a full-scale retaliation.
Oh, wow.
We could see strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities.
Okay.
And critical infrastructure.
Right.
It's a scenario that could escalate into a full-blown regional war.
Right.
With unthinkable consequences.
Oh, man, that's a scary thought.
It's a chilling thought.
So maybe direct retaliation isn't the most likely scenario.
Probably not.
What about scenario 2? Iran continues to rely on its proxy groups.
Okay, the proxy war scenario.
Hezbollah and Hamas.
Right.
To wage a shadow war.
A shadow war.
What would that look like?
This is the more probable scenario.
Okay, why so?
At least in the near future.
Okay.
It allows Iran to cause disruption and inflict pain.
Okay.
Without the risk of direct confrontation.
I see.
They can maintain that thin veil of plausible deniability, claiming these are independent actors.
Right, right.
But it's a dangerous game.
It is, because that deniability only stretches so far.
It does?
Especially when it's clear who's pulling the strings.
Right. Everyone knows who's behind it.
It puts Israel in a tricky position.
A very tricky position.
Right.
Stuck playing whack-a-mole while the real source of the problem remains untouched.
Right.
And this constant back and forth could lead to a gradual escalation of violence.
Right.
Each attack fueling the next.
Right.
Neither side wants all-out war.
Right.
but they could stumble into it through a series of miscalculations.
Okay, so final scenario.
Okay, let's go there.
What if the real change comes from within Iran itself?
Interesting.
What if this operation is like the spark that ignites a full-blown revolution?
A revolution
leading to regime change.
Regime change in Iran.
What would that look like?
This is the wild card.
Okay.
The hardest to predict.
Right.
But with the most potential for lasting change.
Interesting. Okay.
Remember the economic struggles.
Right.
The social unrest.
Right.
The whispers about the supreme leader's failing health.
Right.
Operation Days of Repentance.
Yeah.
Could be the final straw for many Iranians.
Yeah, we've seen those waves of protests erupt in recent years.
We have.
People demanding change, demanding accountability.
Exactly.
And this could be the thing that pushes them over the edge.
Imagine those protests escalating.
Right.
Fueled by anger over the regime's vulnerability.
Okay.
And their costly foreign entanglements.
Right.
If the security forces crack down too hard, it could backfire, leading to even more dissent.
Yeah.
Maybe even defections from within the government.
Wow, so a collapse from within
a collapse from within.
It's almost too big to comprehend.
It is a huge possibility.
What would that mean for the region, for the world?
It's a gamble with incredibly high stakes.
Right.
A new Iran could emerge, embracing democracy and openness.
Oh, that would be amazing.
It would be a dramatic shift, or the power vacuum could lead to chaos.
Oh, no.
Potentially allowing extremist groups to seize control.
Right.
The implications are enormous.
Huge. So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From high-tech weaponry.
Cutting-edge technology.
To the potential for revolution.
The human drama.
I mean, it's enough to make your head spin.
It is a complex situation.
What are, like, the key takeaways?
What can we learn from all of this?
As we try to make sense of all this.
I think the most important thing is to remember.
Yeah.
There are no easy answers.
Right.
When it comes to the Middle East.
It's so complex.
This region is a tapestry woven with centuries of history, religion, ethnicity, and competing interests.
So avoid those simplistic solutions.
Avoid simplistic solutions.
Or black and white thinking.
Nuance is key.
Right.
We need to approach this with humility.
Right.
Understanding that our own knowledge is limited.
Okay.
Seek out diverse perspectives.
I like that.
Engage in thoughtful dialogue.
Okay.
Even when it's challenging.
Right. Even when it's tough.
Because at the end of the day, finding peace and stability in the Middle East and in the world relies on our ability to listen, understand, and to find that common ground.
Well said. And on that note,
yeah,
it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive.
It is time to wrap things up.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for listening.
As we explored the complexity
and intricacy
of Operation Days of Repentance.
A truly fascinating operation.
This story is far from over.
It's just the beginning.
Yeah. And we'll be here to help you make sense of it. Absolutely. As it unfolds. Until next time.
Until next time.
Keep those brains engaged and keep exploring.
Stay curious.